All right, good morning, everybody. My name is Marla, and I will be the facilitator today for the meeting. I am in the New Orleans area. I've been with Erace since about 2019-ish or so. Eracism is the slogan of the group Erace, which was formed in New Orleans in the summer of 1993. We seek ways through person-to-person communication to show that we are committed to treating all human beings with love, respect, empathy, compassion, and humility. Join us. Erace is an organization that does not espouse any political party, and we have no religious affiliation. We believe in the acceptance of all people, and no personal attacks of any kind will be tolerated. We come with the intention to listen, learn, and not to argue. We begin today by acknowledging that what we know as the United States is the ancestral and unceded territory of many indigenous peoples, and that there are many more nations and tribes that could be named here. Members of our meeting group today are on the lands of the Chitimacha and Choctaw in New Orleans, the Creeks and Cherokees in Atlanta, the Tonkawan, Lipan, Apache, and Comanche in Austin, the Lenape and Piscataway in Washington, D.C. metropolitan area, the Wampanoag and Nipmuc peoples in Boston, the Coahuila and Mojave in Riverside, and the Lumbee in Fayetteville. We thank their ancestors for being stewards of these lands through the generations and through today. We need to protect and honor the history and the people of these places. Despite centuries of colonial theft and violence, we should always remember that we are all still on Indigenous land, and it will always be Indigenous land. Okay, just a brief review of the format, although I know everybody here knows it already. Eventually, in a moment, I'll ask everybody to introduce themselves, but please keep yourself on mute if you're not speaking. Raise one finger to be put on the list, and I will call you out in order of how you are on the list that I need paper for. Okay, here we go. Please respect and don't interrupt the speaker. No side comments, no name calling, etc. To explain clarifying questions. After a speaker is finished, you can raise two fingers to go out of order to ask a clarifying question. This is not meant to give your opinion. It's just meant to actually clarify what the other person said. What did you mean by, etc. Two people are allowed to ask clarifying questions per speaker. Okay, so the reason why I brought the topic, I try hard when I'm facilitating to pick things that are timely most of the time. I mean, most issues are timely no matter what they are, but this felt particularly timely in light of recent events with Nolan Wells, which quickly became a national story, if you will. So I just thought it would be useful and productive to discuss interracial friendships and maybe share our own experiences too, if we feel so inclined, as to what those experiences have been like for us. So with that, I will open the list. Oh, sorry, I need to go around and ask everybody to please introduce themselves. I always forget that. Okay, Beatrice.
Yeah, hi, it's Beatrice, and I am here in Silver Spring, Maryland, member of Erace since 93, 94 when I lived in New Orleans, and glad to see everyone.
Thank you. Glad to see you. Dee Dee, good to see you.
Hi, I'm Dee Dee. I've been with Erace since the pandemic, because my sister introduced me to Eracism in Atlanta, and then I picked up you guys. Um, I'm happy to be here, and this is a topic that is on the forefront of my total lifestyle. So I really wanted to be here. So I'm glad that all of y'all are here.
Thank you. Glad you're here too. Phyllis.
Good morning, everybody. I'm Phyllis. I'm in New Orleans and I've been coming to Erace since the summer of 2008.
Thank you. Marion.
Good morning again, everyone. Oops, excuse me. I kicked the table. Okay. Good morning again, everybody. It's good to see everyone on this hot July day. Uh, I'm looking forward to having this discussion, and I'm not looking forward to it. It brings back some very unpleasant memories, but it's reality in the world that we're living in, and I'm glad that enough of us showed up to discuss it. So good to see everyone again.
Thank you, Marianne. Nancy.
Good morning. I'm Nancy. I'm here in the New Orleans area, and I've been coming to Erace since June of 2008.
Okay, Louise.
Hi, I'm Louise, and I have been coming to Erace meetings for over 2 decades, I guess, and first in New Orleans and now in Austin, Texas.
Thank you. And Glenn. Glenn, are you there? Okay. We can come back and Glenn can introduce himself later if he's available. For now, I will go ahead. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Oh, you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Glenn Abdullah. Been coming to your race since 1994.
Great. Thank you, Glenn. Okay, we're going to open the list to anybody who would like to be on the list. Marion. Okay, Marion, you can go ahead.
Okay, as I said a couple of minutes ago, this brings back a very unpleasant memory. It happened when I was 14. It has come up from time to time whenever something like this tragedy happens. I'm sure Beatrice will remember the story of Emmett Till in who was murdered in the state of Mississippi by two white men who dragged him out of his relative's house and brutally murdered him. And it this has got to stop. That we don't know if this was an accident. I'm not going to say I hope it was an accident, but I'd rather it was an accidental drowning than deliberate. And it's so unfortunate that there's this suspicion that there might be foul play. So in my heart of hearts, I really hope, I'm so sorry that the young man died so tragically, but I hope that it was an accident and not something deliberate, because this will affect everyone involved, the parents, the siblings, if there are any, the other young people who may have been in the vicinity when this horrible tragedy happened. They will be marked and scarred. And as I said, the parents, the relatives, everyone will be markedly scarred until the day they die, because this is something that you don't get over. And hopefully there wasn't any foul play. I really pray and hope that isn't the case, but it is a tragedy. And I hope that there will be honesty coming forth so that this can be settled.
Thank you. Could you hear that okay, everybody?
Mhm.
Okay, excellent. All right, Beatrice, you're next, and then the list is open.
See, my first reaction, well, a couple of things. My first reaction to the first video was how naive the young woman seemed to have been about developing friendships with people, even of your own race. The word friend to me is a really deep and meaningful one. And it takes a lot of work. It takes time. I have my best friend who lives in New Orleans that I grew up next door to, and we played jacks and jumped rope together and hopscotch. and we are still friends. We went to school together, and we still communicate with one another. So the word so creating a friendship with someone, even in your own race, is work, and it has to be work that people are committed to. But interracial friendships cover a lot of ground. That can be difficult ground. People who are not aware either of history or don't have sensitivity about microaggressions, there's just a whole lot. There's a lot of work to it, and I think people think that someone might be a friend, and then you get into a situation, or maybe you just think it's an acquaintance, and you get into a situation where you find that this was not based on reality. This was something that you thought was and never was. Now, the second video with the mother saying that she's concerned about her child being the only one, I can understand that. I can deeply identify with that. And again, the terrible situation with the young man, which I hope we will know what happened. But going back to the concept of friendship, that is a very deep and very meaningful word. And just the first video, the woman seemed to have been encouraging people just go out and do this. I mean, just go out just because this is a good thing to do, baby. Just run on out there, get yourself a white friend, and life's gonna be beautiful. Anyway, I hear the thing.
It's okay. If you need to finish the thought, please do.
That was really it. Just the naivety. I thought that, the young woman, that this is something you should do. You can do. It's easy. Go out and do it. Go buy a popsicle.
Yeah, right. All right, thank you. The list is open. Teresa, welcome also.
Thank you.
And Nancy.
I'm glad you chose this article because I was having other racist thoughts about this story because my initial thing was, wow, a Black teenager who was killed is making national news. And I was just amazed by that. I was waiting to find out that he was the son of somebody famous or, because that just doesn't absolutely happen in this country. And I know we haven't turned the corner. So I was trying to figure out how this particular story, given who the person was, made national news. And then they, as the montage of pictures, they show him wearing a football uniform. And it's like, well, he wasn't going pro. So that's not the reason this made a national story. Just like my racist mind cannot believe that a Black teenager in Mississippi can make national news when he's not the one suspected of killing somebody, I'm just trying to find out, how did this make national news? And the only thing I could come up with, again, in the mind frame of a racist is, oh, it must be that his so-called white friends come from prominent families. And now it's like, oh, these potential white kids gone bad. Like, I'm still trying to wrestle with how this news story, it's not that it shouldn't be, but in our country, it's just like, okay, what angle is putting this in the national spotlight? And I apologize for being late. Maybe you guys have already discussed this aspect of it, but I just found it remarkable, absolutely remarkable that this young man, and he wasn't the only person of color at this event, and you're talking about all white friends or whatever. I think I'll have to get back on the list to even make a comment about that, but that was my initial. And so when I saw what your video was about, I was like, oh, I'm glad we're talking about that case, only because I've been fascinated by how this particular story made national news. I still haven't uncovered that because I just don't have time, but thank you. I think I hear the
Okay, cool. Okay.
thank you.
Yes. All right, Nancy, and then the list is open.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this topic. I was listening to WWL earlier this week. Um, the Scoot Show to be exact. And they were talking about, this particular incident. And this is kind of how the first article links to this article. This incident, Scoot came on and he said, it's a tragedy that this young man, you know, what happened to this young man. He said it's a tragedy, but I don't understand why Ben Crump was called in. Yeah, I see your expression, Beatrice. I don't understand why Ben Crump was called in. I don't see what the racial issue is here, which goes back to the first article about having, you know, friends of different ethnicities who do not understand what it's like to be Black in America and why it would be a racial issue. Because Black deaths, I mean, there's so many of them. You know, pick one that, you know, when it's quite obvious what happened, it's not thoroughly investigated. People are never charged. The I don't know, the people who accompanied him are never investigated, never charged. All right. Or a couple of weeks ago, I wanted to do the Carmelo Anthony case in Texas, but I chose to do, I'll have to get back on the list.
All right. The list is open unless, if nobody wants to go, Nancy could continue. Okay, Marion.
The one with the young man who killed the guy at the football game. And I wanted to do it on a jury of your peers because there were no Black people, no Black jurors in that case. And so it's kind of the reverse of that. There was a man who was on the internet who said that if this young man had been white, he would have never been charged because it would have been a case of self-defense. He would have never been charged. So for Scoot to be so naive, unless he was just trying to drum up interest and get people to call into the radio station and talk about it and give their opinion, which, you know, he could have done. But I just thought it was extremely naive on his part to make a comment like that. What is the racial issue here? He really he it just was mind-boggling to me. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Nancy. Marion, you're next.
It just occurred to me, there was a real life scenario. I was at the mall, at Lakeside Mall no, it wasn't last Saturday. That's been a weekday. May have been Friday of last week. And I'd gone to walk in the mall because it's too hot to walk outside with my sister. And I sat down near a concession stand where they were selling ice cream. And just coincidentally, I guess, since we're talking about this, a group of young boys, and they were about 14 years old, uh, walked to the concession stand. It was four white boys and one Black boy, and they were all laughing and they had on football shirts. So I was assuming they were coming from football practice at school. And everybody was so jovial and happy and cracking jokes, and nobody was paying attention. And the thought just popped into my mind. As we've been talking about this sad episode here, uh, and I thought about the young man throughout the week. Well, there was nothing in the paper on the news about any young Black man, young Black boy Black boy's body being found. But I thought about that. It was four, as I said, four white teenagers and this one Black boy who was with them, and they were all just having such a rollicking good time. And since we, as I said, started talking, I thought how sad this is, how very, very sad that we have all of this doubt and suspicion and possibility that this young man uh, Wells, what is his name?
Nolan Wells.
Nolan Xavier Wells had to die this horrible death. And it just seems so evil and unnecessary and just downright in insanity. And it's so upsetting to me. But I thought about those young kids at the ice cream stand this past weekend or so, having a good time and laughing, and I haven't heard anything terrible in the news, so hopefully he got home okay. But it's just really such a disgrace, such a shame, such a waste, such a horror. It almost makes you sorry to be in the world right now, really. But that's how I feel. I don't want to die. I'm not going to commit suicide or anything like that. But it just shatters me to the core of my soul.
Thank you, Mary. Would you like to get back on the list?
I'll listen. I got that off my chest. I feel
No,
better
thank
now.
you. All right, Beatrice, you're next, and then the list is open.
I guess the great tragedy, of course, is the loss of this young man. This is a horrible thing to have occurred, and for these parents to have lost their son, there I cannot tell you, having lost a son, the greater pain than losing a child. I mean, the universe is not supposed to operate like that. You're not supposed to bury your children. But the great tragedy is that although Ben Crump is there, and I have a great deal of respect for him, the investigation is what is concerning me. What is going to happen? What are they going to find out? The one young man who was talking, one of the young men, claims to have been a close friend to to Wells, but the parents say they don't know if it's having been their son's friend. I mean, that to me is the greater concern, the greatest pain for us who are not directly related to the child is as African Americans to know how many of us, how many bodies are at the bottom of some lake, some river somewhere. Not only has no one figured out what happened to us, they don't even know where we are. You know, they say the Mississippi blood, there was a song, the Mississippi blood is cakes in black blood. So that to me, that is the great concern. What kind of investigation? And on a completely different note, the young man that was killed in Maine, this man's blood, they didn't even persevere. They didn't preserve the scene of the crime. They let that man's blood run down into the gutter in Maine, the one that was shot by the ICE person. So, you know, the investigations of crimes against people of color is just horrendous and it's heartbreaking. And I just hope that Ben Crump, and I'm glad that he's there. I'm glad he shows up and shows out and does what he's supposed to do, and hopefully he'll get to the bottom of what happened to this dear child.
Okay, thank you, Beatrice. The list is open. Teresa.
You know, this story made me think about when I was a high schooler, and I had always looked back at my high school days and thought, oh, it was so wonderful. I went, you know, I'm in a military town and we all went to school together and everything. And then I thought about it. I said, but I still just hung out with Black people, even though my school was well mixed and whatever. And I it didn't really I guess I just didn't really pay attention. One thing I did pay attention to, and I think I shared this with you all, because I went to, I think they were calling them accelerated classes, gifted and talented. They every 30 years or so, they rename the same whatever. It's like, oh, it's not tracking, it's ability grouping. Anyway, I was in the highest whatever track, ability group, whatever. And one day I just looked around and I saw half of the class is full of Black girls. The other half is white kids, both male and female. There were no Black guys, no Black guys. So a lot of my friends were Black, but then also the smartest of the smart white kids because we were all in class together. And that's who I hung out with. I didn't hang out with the average white kid, whereas I would hang out with Black kids regardless of whether they were in my classes. They lived in my neighborhood. We all were friends, you know. And it wasn't until my senior year, and it was kind of remarkable to me that I had one Black guy in my class. And I had heard of the other Black guy who was also in an accelerated class, and it was that guy I went to the prom with. So I always say, hey, I went to the prom with half of the smart guys in high school because there was only two. At least that's how it was in my high school. And so I'm thinking about, it's Mississippi, and this kid, whoever he was he also one of the kids who had white friends because he was in the highest track? I mean, they definitely show him in his football uniform, so he was on the football team, but I would like to know. I was just wondering, again, putting it out for the group because I haven't really done a deep dive on this, but who were these white friends? I'm still thinking this story made national news, not just because of the lawyer, but also who the white kids were.
Thank you. The list is open. Phyllis.
Well, I think until recently, when I've thought about interracial relationships, I've thought about adults and how it can benefit adults who are open to get to know people of different races and cultures. I hadn't really thought about what it means for younger people. And I think a lot of how your friend group arises is when you're younger and you're in school, is like Tracy was saying, who's in your class, who do you go to school with, who's in the clubs that you're in. And it's not necessarily based on a deeper look into what kind of a person they are, because you're young and they're young and just want to have friends. um so the second video especially was very helpful in that regard, thinking about what it means for young Black kids and other kids of color to be in mostly white environments and have their parents have to think about how to help them learn to be safe and learn to be discriminating in a positive way about who they are spending their time with. The first example, the mom whose name was Ridgemont, especially that she didn't want her child to go on a class trip to Ireland because it would be mostly white people, and then going to a very white country. I recently saw a video of an adult person, a woman who was traveling alone in Ireland, and she posted a video that she was in Ireland in a little village. She got up in the middle of the night, went down to the local pub, and how everyone there was just so welcoming and warm and took her in and made sure she always had drink in her hand. And that was great. But when she first said, I'm sorry, I heard the bell finish, that she was going down to the pub alone, I was like, what? But it worked out fine. So thanks.
Thank you. Teresa has a clarifying question.
That woman was a woman of color?
Yes. Sorry.
Okay.
She was a
I was
black
just
woman.
making sure.
I'm sorry if I didn't say that. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. American.
Wow. Okay. All right. The list is open. Marion and Beatrice. Marion, go ahead.
I just thought about a couple of years ago, I went to visit my oldest son in Queen Creek, Arizona, and we went to the local, it's the equivalent of Walmart. What was it? What was it? TG&Y? I forget, but it's some nationwide store you all know about. So it didn't occur to me about being apprehensive about going in the store or anything like that. Well, first of all, Queen Creek is predominantly of the Caucasian persuasion. I think my son and his wife and family are the only Black people in the neighborhood. And he said the neighbors are very, very nice. But as we walked around this store, my son and I, we would get, oh, I know what it was. It was Thanksgiving. That's why we were in there, getting the stuff for the Thanksgiving feast. Uh, I had on this red hat. Some of you've seen me wear it. I'm not going to get rid of my red cap. I love it. In the wintertime, Nancy and Phyllis have seen it, I'm sure. And everybody, all the white folks, as I passed through the frozen food section or the canned section or the poultry section, people were telling me, "Oh, ma'am, that's a cute cap you have on." I said, "Oh, thank you." I think 8, 9 people, maybe 10 people, must have told me, men and women, told me about my cute red winter cap. So my son and I were the only Black people in the store. I kid you not. I didn't see another Black face other than my son's face and my face. Uh, all the cashiers for the Caucasian persuasion, everybody. But I didn't feel uncomfortable. And I guess it was the way it was because people told me about my cute red cap. So that's why I didn't fear being fearful. But that was the first time I have ever been in a situation like that. Because here in New Orleans, you're always going to see somebody, either brown or Black, in the store or the shopping center. But there, my son and I were the only 2 Black people in the store. And people telling me about my cute red cap. I'm done.
Thank you. I love that story, actually. All right, Teresa has a clarifying question, and then Beatrice is
When
next.
you say cap, did it look like a MAGA cap or?
No, it was one of those caps you call
Like a beanie?
a newsboy cap.
Oh, cute.
You know, and it was cocked to one side.
Okay.
It wasn't it had no writing on it. It was just
Well, I've seen those that look like MAGA hats and it says "Made You Look," so I didn't.
no, it was
Oh, okay,
the
thank you.
newsboy cap, no
I'm,
writing.
I'm still in the mind frame of the devil. Sorry.
I'm glad you asked.
Oh man. Okay, Beatrice, you're next, and then the list is open.
Marla, you invited us at the beginning to kind of talk about experiences and so forth with friendships. And this was a very long time ago. It's not friendship, but an incident. One of my first jobs was at the Chesapeake and Potomac Telephone Company as an interviewer. And we were in a training period. And there were people of all races. We're actually probably just Black and white. But anyway, we had gotten to, you're going through all these little modules and classes and all kind of stuff. Then you're talking to people and you're laughing and, oh, this is wonderful. And so we would go out at lunchtime and the Black girl, we ran into the girl didn't speak to us. I mean, she had been in training with us for almost 2 weeks. And she passed us like, I don't even know these people. I said, I don't believe this. And then someone said, well, that's how white people do. Well, I had never thought that would ever happen in life. It was just ridiculous. We had been encountering one another, sitting side by side in classes. So I said, But the other thing, presently, because a lot of my church, we have a very highly interracial church in terms of all kinds of people, the people that I volunteer with and the people in our Erace group, many of them are white. And I would consider them friendly acquaintances and loving church members. And it's true. I mean, I really respect and I feel that these are true, gracious, genuine people. The fact that they are not Black does not take away from the fact that they can be friendly and genuine. As I said at the beginning, I would never go out of my way and think it my job to make a friend of somebody of another race. I just don't think that's my responsibility. But if the experience comes and there are people with whom I relate, we have genuine, our values are similar, and I'm on it.
Thank you. The list is open. We have about 20 more minutes before wrap up. So Louise has a clarifying question.
For Beatrice, you said it's not your responsibility to make friends of another people of other races. You mean, but if the opportunity, I didn't quite understand. If the opportunity came up, of course you'd take it.
Right. I just don't think that I got the impression that this young woman in the video, and I could have misread her entirely, felt like we needed to go out and do this thing because it's important. We need to go out and mind the fields of people and find us some white friends. I'm just saying that genuine people I meet, present myself as a genuine, transparent person, and I want you to be the same, and we can walk on the same road. Yeah. Is that clearer?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Thanks for asking.
Phyllis, you can go ahead. Got 2 minutes.
Well, I didn't know that white people don't acknowledge Black people that they might have like encountered at work or school until I said hello to somebody from work who I saw at a grocery store. And they said, I was surprised you acknowledged me. And I was like, what? What are these people? This was here in New Orleans. What is going on? Because if I see somebody from work, I'm going to say hello to them. That it makes no sense to me to ignore somebody that you say hi to on a daily basis at work or anywhere. No sense.
Thank you. Louise, you're next, and then Teresa.
Yeah, Beatrice, that person definitely sounds like a bit of a word. But and that just reminded me, I don't know, in Australia, the middle of Australia, traveling around, sitting at a bar, and we sat next to this Aboriginal guy, and we struck up a conversation, me and my boyfriend, and we were just chit-chatting away and blah, blah, blah. And then it came to the end of the evening, and he said goodbye to us, and he said, "You are very good people, that you talk to Black people." And it was just like my heart, I felt like my heart just shattered. Like I couldn't even comprehend the fact that he was thanking us for talking to him all evening. I mean, it blew my mind, and that was my first, of course, very naive to a lot of things at that age, but that it blew my mind. I just, yeah, that's it.
Thank you. Teresa, you're next.
All right, I'll share this story. So I was a Peace Corps volunteer in Tanzania from 92 to 94. And the way Peace Corps does it is they bring out groups of people at a time. So I was a part of 29 in a training group. And that's how I started my teaching career, and Texas ended it. Anyway, when I was there, I was with 2 other volunteers who knew I was a volunteer, and we were kind of at a mixer to meet the other volunteers. And this white guy in the newest group of Peace Corps volunteers walked up to our table, made no eye contact with me, only talked to the 2 white volunteers and everything. And I kept trying to get into the conversation, and then he walked away. I mean, it was kind of long enough for him he didn't even look at me. And I called him out. I said, "Hey, what am I, invisible?" And he was like, "Oh, I didn't know you were, or that you spoke English or whatever." And kind of walked away to do something else. And I was livid. And the 2 other volunteers were just like, "Well, what are you so angry?" I said, "He sat there and talked to you, or stood there and talked to you the entire time, never looked at me, and da 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 da." And I was like, "Well, thank God he came to Tanzania to be racist, even if he thought it was Tanzanian and didn't speak English. Every friggin' Tanzanian knows hello. Okay. I mean, it used to be a British colony. They speak English at that time from 92 to 94. I think it was probably 93 or whatever. The average Tanzanian who was educated spoke 3 languages, their tribal language, English, and Swahili. So, and this volunteer had just, or was about to be sworn in. So he could have easily looked at me and even done the microaggression like, hujambo or habari yako, or just given a greeting in Swahili. He knew enough because we do language training, but he made zero effort, pretended that I wasn't there. that was the worst I've ever been treated in that circumstance, and it was by an American. By the same token, I have had other, like while I was in Tanzania, white tourists who complimented me on my English. And it's just like Tanzanians never mistook me for a Tanzanian, by the way. It was only white people who didn't know or whatever. I mean, you could just look. And I think a Irish woman said it best when she was talking about Catholic Irish and Protestant Irish people. She said, you know the difference between the two because it's tribal. You look at their mannerisms, you look at whatever, and you could tell, but they could not tell by my mannerisms or whatever. Tanzanians never mistook me for a Tanzanian. But white people are just like, oh, she's brown. I'll just assume she doesn't speak English, even though they can speak Swahili. Anyway, that was my story.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing that. The list is open. Dee Dee.
I'm gonna tell you a little story that's like I was raised, my parents, my mother in particular, raised us in a very difficult way for us to be raised in the time that we are raised in the environment we are raised in. But my mother made an effort to always make sure that I was in a biracial, triracial environment, which meant church, it meant school, it meant where we lived. And believe it or not, there was redlining in California. And so that was a little bit trickier. Okay. Um, she had, when we joined a church that had a lot of different kinds of folks there, there was one lady who definitely reached out to my mother and wanted to be her friend, and she was white. And they had a lot in common. We were a family of all girls. There was a family of all girls, so that made things easy. We were close in age, so that made it easier also. We developed a friendship that, I was watching the video and the lady was talking about stepping out and making an effort to be around people and not her same. And I think back on my childhood and my upbringing, and for me, because of the effort my mother made, it wasn't an effort to make friends. I don't need to go out and make a point of making a white friend. Okay. I don't need to do that. I got, I need to
Please,
get back
please
on the
finish.
list.
That's okay. You can go ahead and finish unless somebody's
Okay.
tied up.
One thing that really bugged me about a week ago is my family, and most of you know that we are an interracial marriage over here. Um, and we don't think about it until somebody points it out. It really isn't an issue, never was. But we went to a Japanese restaurant with one of our oldest daughters and a granddaughter and a couple of their friends. Okay. Um, Needless to say, I was the only Black person at the table. And when in the Japanese restaurant, they were starting to set the table and they were putting out plates. And everybody got a set of chopsticks. I got a fork. Well, these people did not know that I grew up very close to Gardena. I had been eating with chopsticks since I was 8. Okay. I knew how to eat with chopsticks. They looked at me, figured I didn't because I was Black. And I picked up the fork and I said it just loud enough for them to hear. I really hate being profiled in a restaurant. And I tossed the fork. Okay. And I felt good. But when the our two families in the church kind of became one larger family because it was during the 60s when all the civil rights stuff was going on. And both of our fathers were going to some of the marches down in the South. I was in California. And so one girl, the one that I'm closest to, and I'm still close to her, she's 6 weeks older than I am. And I enjoy the look on people's face. First, when I say that she's my sister, and second, I say she's 6 weeks older than I am. Figure that one out. But that's my life. I'm comfortable with it. I don't have to make an effort. People are people. Like Godfrey Cambridge said once, if God didn't mean for the races to mix, he would not have standardized the parts. I'm done.
Thank you. Thank you. The list is open. We have time for like 8 more minutes or so. Richard and then Nancy. And welcome, Richard.
Thank you. Sorry I'm late getting on. I'm up here in Minnesota and trying to connect on a laptop I'm not used to. But what Dee Dee just said about he would not have standardized the parts, that really struck me positively, because one of the expressions I've always had concerns with is the
Oh, I think you might have frozen, Richard.
It's directly to do with the second video of the said. Are you able to hear me?
Now we can.
You can hear me. Okay. Is the expression up? Nobody was in the room that looked like me, but exactly as Dee Dee ended her talk with saying, it's, he would not have standard. We've all got the standard parts. There's a difference in melanin that affects our skin color, but as far as people looking like us, the old 2 eyes, 1 nose, 2 ears, 2 legs. That's really what matters. And getting back to the second video, the woman who said, "Well, my daughter can't go to Ireland because I can't. There's likely not to be anybody there that looks like her." Flies in the face of that. If it had been a European American mother with a European American who wanted to go to Africa with Black friends, and the mother said, "Well, there may not be anybody that looks like my European American daughter," that would be considered overtly racist. So in the second video, the second mother who said it's not basically the color of the skin that matters, it's whether I have confidence in my son's choice of friends that really matters. Okay.
Thank you, Richard. Next is Nancy, and then after Nancy is Louise.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to Beatrice about working for CMP. That was my first job in DC. CMP telephone in Hyattsville. I was a director assistant operator. I was 18 years old. And you want to talk about getting an education in racism and sexism and sexuality from these 50-year-old white women. I see Dee Dee laughing because it's true. They had no filter. I mean, we're talking about 1972, and there was no filter. All right. But anyway, I love all the experiences that Beatrice and I have had in Washington, D.C. area. That's another one. They had no filter. They would just say whatever came to their mind, and the one that really sticks out in my mind was that, "Oh, your fingernail polish is so pretty, and that is a consolation for your skin color." I can't remember exactly how she said it, but I was like, What? What? Yeah, see, I mean, they just say anything. I mean, they talk about you. They had no filter. Anyway, that's it.
Oh boy. All
Yeah.
right. Louise, you are next.
Yeah, I just wanted to respond to Richard that I think you're missing the point of that parent that said she was worried about sending her daughter or didn't want to send her daughter to Ireland.
I see.
A lot of white, let's say, if not all, white people are not familiar with the microaggressions that happen and can't see them, don't realize they're happening. And I think the mother just wanted to have someone that is aware to protect her child and be there in case she felt alienated in any way or abused, not physically, obviously, mentally. So I think that was the point that the mum was making. And you could say the same thing again about sending a white child to an African country without any white sponsor, people with her. That would be a bit odd, perhaps, for the child, a difficult situation, but not racist. That's not a racist thing. That it comes from something else, I think. And the fork thing, Dee Dee, oh my God, that I can't even imagine that. At, I can't, I you didn't just get up and walk out of the restaurant. I mean, geez, that's crazy. And and I know, and that's exactly what I'm talking about, Richard. Things like that, we don't see them, we don't know them, we haven't experienced them, you know. um, so having someone there to protect and be with, to keep an eye out, I think that makes a lot of sense. That's it.
All right. Thank you. Marion, you're next, and then we have time for a few more. Dee Dee after Marion, and Nancy after Dee Dee.
Um, this was yesterday. Yes, I think I read this online. I don't know why I go back to that site. Maybe it's because um there are people speaking their mind, but it's YouTube. I don't know how many of you look at YouTube. There was a big discussion about our dearly beloved leader in the Oval Office, who has been supposedly talking to persons of the same ilk as bringing about segregation uh, in the United States. And I thought, oh no, so he wants to drum that hell up again. It isn't so much that, as some people in the comment section were saying, it's not that I want to mingle with white people. And somebody else said, it's not that I want to mingle with black people. It's the ability to be able to move about freely, having laws in place now that will protect you somewhat from the heinous, vile actions that used to take place in the hideous days of segregation. It's just that you living in this too big country, you're a human being. As Richard said a few minutes ago, you have two eyes, one nose, two ears, you're a human being. And the only thing that some people seem to want to hold against you is your melanin. And the thought of this man coming up with such an idea and him being in office 2 more years curdles my blood, curdles my blood, because we know that there are people in this cabinet that they have no backbone. They don't want to have a backbone. That's what I think. And letting this man do whatever he wants. The war is an example. It's just hideous. So look that up, you all, about the segregation. Because I hate to think about people having to go out here with picket signs again and start marching and the violence escalating again. It's just a hideous, evil thought. I know how you overuse that word, too much evil, but it just, that's what it seems like. It's just like hell on earth as far as I'm concerned.
Thank you, Marion. Dee Dee, you're next.
When I was in high school and I was getting ready to graduate, and the other family, their daughter Kathy was getting ready to graduate also, since she was 6 weeks older than me. We were both art majors in high school. And there came a time when the art teacher that we had knew both of us, and she was always thriving to find scholarships, money for us to go to college. And she came up with a contest from the Women's South Ebell group in the area, and they were giving away, they had a contest and they were giving away a $200 scholarship, which back in the mid 60s, that was a lot of money. Okay. And so both Kathy and I entered it. Well, there was like 10 entries. They narrowed it down to she and I. And the lady from the women's group told the art teacher, who she clearly didn't know who she was talking to. She told the art teacher that she wanted to give it to a white student. And the art teacher kind of smiled, yeah, okay, let's see what we can do about that. And so after she left, my art teacher called Kathy's mother and said, this is what this lady said to me. Do what you want to do about that. And so Kathy's mother went to Kathy and told her that that's what the situation was. Kathy said, I am not going to win a scholarship based on my color. Okay, I don't want to win that way. She packed up all her things and withdrew. Okay, 2 days before the decision was to be made. And so they had to, obviously, they had to give the scholarship to me. Okay. When I went to the award banquet to receive it, none of the women from the women's group showed up. Okay. The men's version, the Masons or something, those guys, they gave me the award. But it's always stuck with me because Kathy needed that scholarship to go to school. But she said, I'm not getting it that way. And that has always, always stuck with me, you know. And so that's, 50 some years later, there we are.
Mhm. Thank you. Thank you for sharing that story. Nancy, you're next, and then Glenn, and then I guess we can do wrap ups after that unless other people have more to say.
Okay.
Nancy.
Yeah, I want to specifically address my comments to Richard about earlier in this discussion. I brought up listening to Scoot on the radio about the incident in Mississippi with Nolan Wealth, and he could not understand why Ben Crump was called in to make sure that the investigation was done properly and to oversee the autopsy of the body. But he couldn't understand what the racial component was that Ben Crump would be called to oversee this. And I see this many times, Richard, as you observe situations, that you don't see the racial component in an issue. And it definitely in the first video, when the woman talks about you have a white friend or a friend of another ethnicity, and then comes the moment of truth when that person really shows you who they are and what they understand. And I find that this happens quite frequently when you're not Black, that you don't understand the issues, you don't understand the concerns because it hasn't happened to you. You can't relate to being followed in a store simply because of the color of your skin. You can't understand being handed a fork in an Asian restaurant because they think you have never experienced using chopsticks. You can't assume the assumptions of being told, oh, your fingernail polish really complements your skin. So that's got to be some kind of consolation or comfort or however she put it. You can't understand how insulting that would be. And that's what I have to say. I just want to open your eyes to the fact that from your point of view, yeah, everything looks fine and hunky dory. But from our point of view and the microaggressions and the discrimination, the things that we've experienced, yes, we have cause for concern that you wouldn't.
All right, thank you, Nancy. Glenn, you're next, and then Richard, I saw your hand, and then I think we will do wrap-ups after you, Richard. Go ahead,
Well,
Glenn.
well, you know, if I was in a Chinese restaurant and they handed me some chopsticks, uh, you know, I'd have to tell them, look, I can't use no chopsticks. Give me a fork. And I think I would give the person the benefit of the doubt that this was happens to them all the time that they're dealing with an African American. They would ask for a fork instead of a. So I don't think of it. I wouldn't have took it as it was racism. Um, so, but you know, it's how everybody, it's how each person perceive things. Uh, Now on the death of that young man, uh, I don't I don't come up with a fast opinion. I wait till the dust settles. That's when I'll key in on it. Let's see what happens under the investigation, and wait because until some more evidence come out. I'm not going to assume anything or make an opinion that is something bad has happened. All right, that's it.
Thank you, Glenn. All right, Richard, and then we'll do wrap-up. Richard, you can go ahead and go. I don't know if your screen is frozen. It looks like it is on my end. Okay, Teresa, would you like to go?
Yeah, I just like to say one of my treats to myself when I go grocery shopping, which is only on Saturdays, I get a little packet of sushi and I always make sure I get my little chopsticks, those wooden chopsticks, which are the best. Since we're having a chopstick versus fork debate there. But yeah, I agree with Nancy. If you don't know, you don't know. Like when I lived in Austin, it took me maybe a year or two to realize just how racist that city was because I am so light skinned apparently to the average Austinite that they didn't realize I was black and I was being treated better. I didn't realize that was the reason until, I really started. I mean, when you first move to a place, you just, I had to make friends, do the life and da da da. And then it was like, oh, this crap still happens. And it was really my cousin and well, it's her husband now, but it was her fiance then. And I think it was still the boyfriend at that point. But, she's much darker than me. He is, darker than me, but I mean, imagine a black man. He's handsome. I was like, kudos to you. Marry somebody handsome and smart into this family. Don't marry somebody like our other cousin. Just like you could have left that one. But he was just being harassed. Like he had a good job and everything. Like he's an engineer, and then but they don't care what your degrees are when you're a tall, a rather large black man. And they moved back to Atlanta. They just could not. And it was mostly because of the reaction that he was getting. I mean, again, she's a dark skinned black woman herself, but he was getting more of the aggression and whatnot being a rather sizable, again, to my eye, handsome, so kudos to my cousin, Black man. But they went back to Atlanta because they just could not stand it. They just could not stand it, even though good job, this, that, and the other, and just like, oh, you're in Austin, da, da, da. And I love living in Austin. I got priced out, but it just that encountering those microaggressions every single day back in Atlanta, where there's far more Black people. So
Thank
I
you.
got a question.
Okay, clarifying question, and then Richard can go if he'd still like to go.
Uh, every time I look at you, you look dog skinned to me. I don't see how anybody can think you're white.
Are you? I didn't say they thought I was white. They thought I was Latina. So
Oh, okay,
they didn't
okay.
think I was white. They thought I was not Black. Very big
Oh,
difference.
okay, I got you. Uh-huh. All
There are
right.
other races, but I understand what you're saying.
Did
Yeah,
that answer your
nobody
question?
except for over the phone. Over the phone, I am mistaken as white, and I have heard some stuff, especially when I'm selling insurance, but not in person.
All right. Did that clarified everything for you, Glenn?
Oh, yes, it did.
Okay, thank you. Richard, you have 2 minutes, and then we'll do wrap up. I know I've been saying that for the last 15 minutes. But anyway, Richard, go ahead, and hopefully we can hear you this time.
Yeah, sorry about.
Oh, you're still kind of in and out. And now you're completely frozen and muted. I'm sorry, we're unable to hear you. So let's go ahead and we can move on. Oh, go ahead. Yeah. All right. Let's go ahead and do the wrap up. Everybody has 1 minute because everybody has spoken. Go ahead and start with Beatrice. Go ahead.
Right. This is great discussion. So good to see everyone. Real quick story. When I was in high school, I was a part of a team representing my denomination, United Church of Christ. We were called caravan teams. We went out to different states and worked with the youth group. So we went to South Dakota. I was the only Black person on our little team of 4. And then we went to South Dakota, and I'm telling you, I didn't see one person, one Black person. And it was difficult because I was a young person. I was a teenager, and it just looked like, wow, I'm just all alone. So I went outside one day and I saw a Black cat. I said, baby, it's just you and me, just you and me. And that's the end of that. Thanks for the chat, everybody. So glad to be with you. May have to drop off in a minute, but good to be with you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Beatrice. Good to see you. Dee, you have 1 minute if you'd like it.
This has been a good discussion, and B, when you go into Central Oregon, to this day, you can count Black folks on one hand, just in case you were wondering, okay? I listened to this discussion. I really come away from this meeting appreciating the efforts that my grandparents and my parents made to raise us to not see race first. Okay. And I was raised that way. And that wasn't easy to do in the 40s and the 50s, no matter where you lived. And so, but they made the effort, and I totally, totally feel blessed because they did that.
Thank you. Perfect timing. Okay, Nancy, you have 1 minute if you'd like it.
Oh, thank you. It was a very good discussion. I'm so glad that you brought this for Nolan Wells, and also about having a friend or having friendships of people who are of another ethnicity. It's a very good topic. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Teresa, you've got a minute.
All right, thank you. I've almost felt like you read my mind, Marla, because I was intrigued by that story about the young man who I think somebody, and I don't think that they outright murdered him. I think it was an accident, but that they're trying to cover up. That would be Glenn. Unlike you, I'm not waiting for all the facts. There's no joy in that. There's no entertainment in that, and that's what I look at for the news because I got to find some angle to make me interested in even looking at the news because it's just anyway. Um, I would like to also share, I made a documentary of my trip to Ghana and I put the link in the chat. So anybody who's interested in taking a look at that, please do. And can't wait till the next Erace meeting.
Thank you. Thanks for sharing the link as well. Okay, Richard, you have some time if you'd like it. I'll give you a little more than a minute if we can hear you.
Hopefully I'm here.
For right now, yes.
Good. Yeah, this was a good. I'll try to get
Yep. So we still can't hear you. My apologies.
This was a really good entirety of it, but sorry.
That's okay. I think there's a delay, which is also making it problematic. I apologize.
That might be what's going on.
Yeah, if you want to put something in the chat, everybody can read it there. If you have any final words, I'd be happy to read it. Phyllis, you've got 1 minute if you would like it.
Yeah, I appreciated getting to watch these videos and bring in the topic of Nolan Wells. And I hope that we eventually do find out the facts and somebody gets justice if there was wrongdoing. It's hard to believe there wasn't, or at least negligence. So thank you very much, Marla, for bringing this.
Thank you. Marianne, you have a minute.
Thank you for bringing the topic, Marla. It's very sad, very tragic. I appreciate everyone's comments. My heart really aches for the family. The young man's life was ended before it began, and I do hope it was an accident. I'm sorry he passed away, and I hope it was not some other murky act of hatred that would just be too despicable. But anyway, thank you so much for bringing the article for us to share and discuss.
Thank you. Louise, go ahead.
Yeah, it was a good meeting, definitely. And like always on Erace, which is getting to listen to other people's insights and experiences, that is what we really should be doing all the time, to listen more to people and not be surrounded. I guess it just depends on your upbringing, where you're from, where you choose to live, or everything as well. But hopefully to be surrounded by people that don't look exactly like you and can share experiences that will hopefully not, will change your old views on them, and just open your minds. I guess we all need to open our minds and understand that everyone's experience is different from yours and your viewpoint. So open your minds, man.
Thank you. And Glenn, you have a minute for the wrap up if you'd like it.
Yeah, well, I had an experience when I was in the 70s. Uh, and I was working on a drilling ship on the East Coast, and I was stationed in New Jersey, not New Jersey, yeah, New Jersey, in Rhode Island, and they only had one black person there, and uh, that was a time that I experienced loneliness because I didn't have people of my race to relate to, and so you know, uh, it's not just skin color involved there; it's culture. It's people that you can relate to. You don't have to make no effort to get along. Okay, that's it.
Thank you, and thanks to everybody. I just have a couple of thoughts. I mean, I thought this was a great discussion. I really appreciate everybody's input and the sharing of your lived experiences. I feel like as a white woman and just white people in general, our one of our biggest issues is not whether we understand other people's lived experiences. It's we don't want to understand sometimes. So it's what Louise and everybody kind of touched upon already, is having that openness and being able to listen without defensiveness and making excuses. I try to live by, if somebody says something was racist to them, then that's what it was to them. I don't get to decide, especially as a white person, I don't get to decide what is racist or what isn't. It's that person's lived experience. If they say it was, then it was. What else was I going to say? Oh, regarding Nolan Wells, one thing I heard on the news, and take it for what you will. I don't know how true it is, but apparently one of the friend's parents is a judge. And I think they're okay. Y'all knew that. I couldn't remember if that came up during the discussion or not. So my apologies. But perhaps that's why this has come more to the forefront also. And that, as I think Teresa pointed out, there is probably a lot of wealthy. The friends were probably wealthy, or more known in Ocean Springs, maybe, perhaps. I think that's about it. I would say my personal experience as far as having friends that aren't white, the woman who talked about making the effort to make friends, I approach things carefully because I know that not every person of color wants to be friends with a white woman. I mean, I kind of let folks take the lead with that. But certainly I've had friends who are not white, and phenomenal friendships, for sure. So I just think it's about learning, it's about growth, it's about really listening and trying to truly hear somebody's lived experience and believing them. I mean, that's a great place to start. So that's it. Unless anybody has anything else, we can stop the recording.